The AC unit wheezed like a fading animal at 3 in the morning, and I was elbow deep in its guts when I heard my wife laughing downstairs. Not just any laugh, the throaty, intimate giggle she used to save for me back when we were happy. Back when I thought we were happy. I'm Nathan Brooks, 39 years old, owner of Brooks HVAC Services. I fix broken things for a living, which makes it pretty ironic that I couldn't fix my own marriage. The unit I was working on belonged to Mrs. Patterson, an 80-year-old widow who'd called me in a panic because her house felt like a furnace. Emergency calls pay double, and in this economy, I wasn't turning down money. But that laugh floating up from my kitchen made me freeze. I crept down the stairs, my work boots silent on the carpeted steps. The house was dark except for the blue glow from Colleen's phone screen. She sat at our kitchen table in her silk pajamas, the ones I'd bought her for Christmas, talking to someone who definitely wasn't me. "Oh, Liam, you're terrible," she whispered, twirling a strand of her auburn hair around her finger. "Nathan's working late again. He's always working late." Liam, her ex-boyfriend from college, the golden boy who'd dumped her senior year to pursue some model in California. The same Liam she'd been reconnecting with for the past 6 months under the guise of closure. I pressed myself against the wall, listening as my wife of 12 years flirted with another man in our kitchen. "I know we shouldn't be talking this late," she continued, her voice dropping to that sultry tone I hadn't heard in months. "But I can't stop thinking about last weekend. The cabin was perfect, and God, you haven't changed a bit." My chest tightened. Last weekend she'd told me she was visiting her sister in Chicago. Emergency family drama, she'd said. Couldn't possibly bring me along because it was women's stuff. "Nathan suspects nothing," she laughed again. "He's so wrapped up in his little business, fixing other people's problems. He doesn't even notice what's broken right in front of him." That stung more than it should have. My little business paid for this house, her car, her designer clothes, and apparently her weekend getaways with Mr. Perfect. I backed away slowly, my mind racing. Part of me wanted to storm into that kitchen and confront her right there, demand answers, scream, fight, make her explain why 12 years of marriage meant less to her than some nostalgic fling with a guy who'd already broken her heart once. But I didn't. In my line of work, you learn patience. You diagnose the problem completely before you start tearing things apart. Rush the job, and you'll make things worse. I needed more information. The next morning, Colleen acted like nothing had happened. She made coffee, kissed my cheek, and asked about Mrs. Patterson's AC unit with the same casual interest she'd show in the weather. "Fixed it around 4, I said, watching her face for any sign of guilt. Nothing. She was either a better actress than I'd given her credit for, or she genuinely didn't care that she'd been planning her next affair while I was working to keep our lives comfortable. "That's nice, honey. Oh, I forgot to mention, Liam's in town for a few weeks. Business trip. I thought maybe we could have him over for dinner sometime. You know, bury the hatchet properly." The audacity was breathtaking. Bury the hatchet? "Well, you've always been a little jealous of him," she said with that patronizing smile I'd grown to hate. "It would be mature of us to show there are no hard feelings." Jealous. Right. I was jealous of a guy who'd abandoned her the moment something shinier came along, only to come crawling back now that she was married and stable. "Sure," I said. "Sounds great." Her face lit up like Christmas morning. "Really? Oh, Nathan, this means so much to me. I know you two will get along once you give him a chance." I smiled back, already planning my next move. "I'm sure we will." That afternoon, I did something I'd never done before in 12 years of marriage. I violated Colleen's privacy. Our shared cloud account had been syncing photos automatically for years, mostly pictures of family gatherings and vacation shots. I'd never bothered looking at her personal folders before. I should have. The Chicago trip folder contained 47 photos that had nothing to do with her sister and everything to do with a romantic cabin getaway. Colleen in lingerie I'd never seen before. Colleen and Liam in bed together, his face carefully cropped out of most shots, but visible enough in others to confirm my worst fears. Selfies of them hiking, holding hands, playing house in someone else's cabin while I worked 16-hour days to pay for her lifestyle. The last photo was a mirror selfie of them together, his arms wrapped around her from behind, both of them naked and grinning like teenagers. The timestamp showed it was taken at 11:47 p.m. last Saturday, about 6 hours before she'd called me, crying about her sister's marriage problems and how she needed to stay another day to help. I sat in my truck outside the job site, staring at those photos until my hands stopped shaking. 47 pieces of evidence that my marriage was a joke, and I was the punchline. But I wasn't going to be the victim in this story. I pulled up the contact information for Quinn Accounting Services and dialed the number. Mara Quinn answered on the second ring. Quinn Accounting, this is Mara. Mrs. Quinn? This is Nathan Brooks. I think we need to talk about our spouses. There was a long pause. I was wondering when you'd call. Mara Quinn was nothing like I'd expected. When she suggested meeting at the little coffee shop on Maple Street, I'd pictured someone broken, maybe crying, definitely fragile. Instead, the woman who walked through the door looked like she could run a Fortune 500 company before lunch and still have energy to spare. She was tall, maybe 5'8", with short dark hair and the kind of sharp green eyes that missed nothing. Her handshake was firm, her smile was predatory, and when she sat down across from me with her black coffee, I realized I might have found the perfect ally. So, she said without preamble, how long have you known? Officially? 2 days. Unofficially? Probably months. Your husband's not exactly subtle. Her laugh was bitter. Subtle isn't in Liam's vocabulary. He thinks he's charming enough to get away with anything, and unfortunately he's usually right. She leaned forward. What evidence do you have? I showed her the photos on my phone, all 47 of them. Her expression never changed, but I watched her grip tighten on her coffee cup until her knuckles went white. That's my cabin, she said quietly. My family's cabin, the one I inherited from my grandmother. She looked up at me. He took your wife to my grandmother's cabin and slept with her in my bed. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be angry. She pulled out her own phone and scrolled through what looked like bank statements. He's been using our joint account to pay for these little getaways. Hotels, restaurants, gas for trips I knew nothing about. 3 months' worth of charges, Nathan. This isn't some sudden rekindling, it's been going on for a while. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. 3 months? At least. Probably longer, but that's as far back as I've traced the paper trail. She showed me the screen. Look at this. March 15th, $200 at Romano's restaurant. The same night I was home with food poisoning, thinking he was working late at the office. Romano's was the fancy Italian place downtown, the kind of restaurant where Colleen always hinted she wanted to go for special occasions. I'd taken her there exactly once for our 10th anniversary and spent 2 weeks eating ramen to make up for the cost. What do you want to do about it? Mara asked. Honestly, I want to make them both suffer, but I want to be smart about it. She smiled for the first time since sitting down, and it was sharp as a blade. I like you already. What do you have in mind? We spent the next hour planning. Mara was methodical, logical, and absolutely ruthless when it came to protecting herself. She'd been documenting Liam's behavior for weeks, building a case for what she called strategic exposure. The thing about cheaters, she explained, is they're always convinced they're smarter than everyone else. They get sloppy because they think their spouses are too stupid or too trusting to catch on. We're going to use that arrogance against them. How? By letting them think they're getting away with it. Let them get comfortable, let them make mistakes, and then we'll destroy them publicly when they least expect it. I liked her style. We exchanged numbers and agreed to stay in touch. As I walked back to my truck, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Hope. Not hope for my marriage. That was gone and buried under 47 photos. But hope that I wouldn't go down without a fight. That evening, Colleen brought up the dinner idea again. "I was thinking this Saturday," she said, chopping vegetables for a salad she'd probably Instagram later. "Nothing fancy, just the three of us getting to know each other." "Sounds perfect. Should I invite Mara too?" The knife paused mid-chop. "Mara?" "Liam's wife. I figured if we're all going to be friends, we should include everyone." Colleen's face went through several expressions before settling on forced brightness. "Oh, I don't think that's necessary. This is more about you and Liam bonding, you know? Guy stuff." Guy stuff. Right. Like watching my wife flirt with her ex while I pretended not to notice. "Actually, I already mentioned it to her when I ran into her at the grocery store," I lied smoothly. "She seemed excited about meeting you." That was partially true. I had called Mara after leaving the coffee shop, and she had been excited, just not for the reasons Colleen would expect. "You talked to her?" "Sure. Nice woman. Very sharp. She runs her own accounting business, you know. Self-made, independent. Pretty impressive." I watched Colleen process this information. Her face tightened almost imperceptibly. "Well, I suppose that would be fine," she said finally. "The more the merrier." Saturday couldn't come fast enough. The dinner was a masterclass in passive-aggressive theater. Liam arrived first, bearing flowers for Colleen and a bottle of expensive wine that probably cost more than I made in a day. He was exactly what I'd expected. Tall, tan, perfect teeth, and the kind of easy confidence that came from never facing real consequences. "Nathan," he said, pumping my hand like we were old friends. "Great to finally meet you. Colleen's told me so much about you." "All good things, I hope." "Of course. She says you're quite the businessman. HVAC, right? That's practical." The way he said practical made it sound like a disease. Mara arrived 20 minutes later, and the dynamic shifted immediately. She wore a simple black dress that somehow made Colleen's elaborate outfit look overdone, and when Liam introduced her, his discomfort was obvious. "Mara, honey, you remember Colleen from college?" "Of course," Mara said with a smile that could cut glass. "Though you look different than I expected. The photos Liam showed me must have been old." Colleen's face flushed. "Photos?" "From your college days," Mara clarified innocently. "He has quite a few of you in his old albums. Very nostalgic." The dinner went downhill from there. Liam kept trying to steer the conversation towards safe topics, but Mara had other plans. She asked pointed questions about Colleen's work, her hobbies, her recent trips to visit family. Every question was perfectly innocent on the surface, but loaded with subtext that made both cheaters squirm. "Chicago must be lovely this time of year," Mara said during the main course, "though I heard the weather was terrible last weekend. Lots of rain." Colleen nearly choked on her wine. "Yes, it was very wet." "Funny," Mara continued, "because I was thinking of taking a trip to our cabin that same weekend, but Liam said he needed the car for work. Emergency client meeting, wasn't it, darling?" Liam's fork clattered against his plate. "Something like that." I watched this exchange with growing admiration for Mara's technique. She was slowly tightening the noose without either of them realizing it. By the time dessert arrived, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Colleen kept shooting desperate looks at Liam, who seemed to be sweating despite the air conditioning. "This has been lovely," Mara said as we cleared the dishes. "But I should get going. Early day tomorrow." She turned to Colleen with that razor-sharp smile. "We should do this again soon. Maybe next time you can tell me more about your sister's marriage problems. I'm always interested in relationship dynamics." After they left, Colleen was quiet for a long time. "She seems intense," she finally said. "I like her. She's direct, honest." I loaded the last of the dishes into the dishwasher. The kind of person who says what she means. What's that supposed to mean? I turned to face her, letting my smile show just a hint of teeth. Nothing at all, honey, just making an observation. But we both knew the game had changed. The following Monday, I put phase 2 of our plan into motion. Mara and I had agreed that the key to destroying our cheating spouses was patience and precision. They'd been careful so far, but comfort breeds carelessness, and we were going to help that process along. I started small. During lunch at Mickey's Diner, the local gossip hub where half the town ate their daily special, I casually mentioned to Mrs. Geller, our 70-year-old neighbor and the unofficial mayor of Maple Street's rumor mill. Colleen's been so happy lately, I said, stirring my coffee thoughtfully. This whole thing with reconnecting with her college friends has really lifted her spirits. Mrs. Geller's ears perked up like a hound catching a scent. College friends? Her ex-boyfriend Liam and his wife Mara. They've been spending a lot of time together lately. Very close. It's nice to see Colleen branching out socially. I let that hang in the air, knowing Mrs. Geller would fill in the blanks herself. By evening, half the neighborhood would be speculating about Colleen's close relationship with her ex. Meanwhile, Mara was working her own angle. As a freelance accountant, she had connections throughout the business community, including several clients who worked in healthcare. It didn't take much digging to find out that Colleen's boss, Dr. Patricia Hendricks, was a stickler for professional conduct and had zero tolerance for workplace drama. Liam's been hanging around the dental office quite a bit, Mara mentioned casually during her appointment with Janet Morrison, Dr. Hendricks's golf partner and best friend. Something about consulting on their computer systems. Very hands-on approach from what I hear. The beauty of small-town gossip is that it spreads like wildfire and grows with each telling. By Wednesday, the story had morphed into Liam practically living at the dental office, with whispered speculation about after-hours consultations. But our real masterstroke came Thursday evening. I was finishing up a service call when my phone buzzed with a text from Mara. Emergency. Meet me at the office parking lot. Now. I found her sitting in her car outside the dental practice, phone in hand, face grim. They're in there, she said without preamble. Together, I followed Liam after he lied about working late, and he came straight here. Through the large front windows, we could see 2 figures in the reception area. The lights were dimmed, but there was no mistaking Colleen's silhouette or the way Liam had his arms around her. How long have they been in there? 20 minutes. And look at this. She showed me her phone screen, a series of text messages from Liam's phone, which she'd been monitoring since discovering his affair. The latest message, sent 15 minutes ago, was explicit enough to make me see red. Can't wait to have you all to myself tonight. Nathan working late again? Colleen's response was equally damning. Until midnight, we have hours. I stared at the messages, feeling something cold and hard settle in my chest. Not hurt anymore. I was past that. This was pure, calculating rage. I'm going in there, I said. Mara grabbed my arm. Wait. Think about this. If you confront them now, they'll just deny everything and be more careful. We need leverage. She was right, but I was past caring about strategy. They're in there planning their next getaway while I'm busting my ass to pay for her lifestyle. I'm done playing games. Then let's play a different game. She smiled, that sharp smile I'd come to appreciate. Follow my lead. We walked into the dental office together. The front door was unlocked, and we could hear voices from the back office, Colleen's laugh and Liam's lower murmur. Hello? Mara called out in a concerned voice. Is anyone here? The door was open. The voices stopped immediately. Footsteps scrambled, and a moment later Colleen appeared from the back hallway, her hair slightly mussed and her lipstick smudged. Nathan, what are you doing here? Mrs. Quinn called me, I said, nodding toward Mara. Said she was worried because Liam missed dinner and wasn't answering his phone. Thought maybe there was an emergency. Liam emerged from the same hallway, straightening his shirt. Mara, I was just helping Colleen with some computer issues. You know how I am with technology. Yes, Mara said dryly. You're very hands-on with your problem-solving. The silence stretched uncomfortably. Colleen looked like a deer caught in headlights, while Liam seemed to be calculating his next move. Well, I said finally, since everyone's safe, I guess we should head home. Long day tomorrow. I looked directly at Liam. Thanks for helping my wife with her computer problems. I hope you were able to get everything working properly. Oh, we made excellent progress, Liam replied, completely missing the edge in my voice. Sometimes these things just need the right touch. As we walked back to our cars, Mara leaned close and whispered, Did you see his face when we walked in? Guilty as sin. And now they know we're watching. Good. Let them squirm. That night, Colleen was unusually affectionate. She made my favorite dinner, opened a bottle of wine, and spent the evening asking about my work with the kind of interest she hadn't shown in months. I'm sorry if it seemed weird earlier, she said, as we got ready for bed. Liam was just helping me figure out some scheduling software issues. You know how hopeless I am with computers. No problem, though next time, maybe ask me first. I'm pretty good with computers too. She laughed, but it sounded forced. Of course. I just didn't want to bother you when you're so busy. I kissed her goodnight and pretended to fall asleep, but my mind was racing. They were getting sloppy, just like Mara had predicted. The question was, how long before they made a mistake big enough to destroy them completely? I didn't have to wait long. Friday evening, Colleen announced she was going out with her friend Rita for girls' night. She spent an hour getting ready, choosing an outfit that seemed awfully fancy for drinks with a girlfriend. Don't wait up, she said, kissing my cheek. Rita's going through a rough patch with her divorce. Might be a late night. 20 minutes after she left, I got a text from Mara. Liam just left too. Said he was meeting college friends for drinks. Want to go find them? We found them at Romano's, the same expensive restaurant where Liam had taken Colleen back in March. They were sitting in a corner booth, holding hands across the table like teenagers in love. Unbelievable, I muttered, watching my wife gaze adoringly at another man. Actually, it's perfect, Mara said, pulling out her phone. Smile, cheaters. She took several photos through the restaurant window, capturing them in various stages of their romantic dinner. The lighting was perfect, the angles were clear, and there was no mistaking what we were seeing. What now? I asked. Now we wait for the right moment to use these. Trust me, Nathan. When we're done with them, they'll wish they'd never met each other. As we drove away, leaving our spouses to their romantic evening, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. The sweet anticipation of revenge served cold. The game was about to get very interesting. The charity gala was Colleen's idea, which made it perfect for our purposes. The annual fundraiser for the Children's Hospital was the social event of the season in our small town, the kind of gathering where everyone who mattered would be present, dressed to impress and eager for gossip. We should go, Colleen announced over breakfast the Saturday after our restaurant surveillance. It's for such a good cause, and I haven't worn my blue dress in ages. The blue dress cost more than most people's monthly car payments, but I just nodded. Sounds great. Should we invite Liam and Mara? Make it a double date? Her fork paused halfway to her mouth. Well, I'm not sure they'd be interested. Actually, I already mentioned it to Mara yesterday. She seemed excited. This was true. Mara had been very excited when I'd called her with the plan. She said Liam loves these kinds of events. Colleen's face went through several expressions before settling on forced enthusiasm. Of course, the more the merrier. The week leading up to the gala was a masterclass in psychological warfare. Mara and I coordinated our efforts with military precision, each move calculated to increase the pressure on our cheating spouses. I started leaving my phone unlocked around the house, with carefully crafted text messages from clients visible on the screen. Messages like, "Thanks for the recommendation, Nathan. Mara Quinn is exactly what our company needed, professional and thorough." Colleen couldn't help herself. She read every message, her anxiety growing with each fictional praise of Mara's business skills and personal qualities. Meanwhile, Mara was playing her own game with Liam. She'd started asking innocent questions about his whereabouts, his new consulting work, and his sudden interest in dental office technology. Nothing accusatory, just the kind of gentle probing that would make a guilty man paranoid. "How's your computer consulting going, honey?" she'd ask over dinner. "You've been spending so much time on that project lately. The client must really value your expertise." By Thursday, both Liam and Colleen were walking on eggshells, jumping at shadows and second-guessing every interaction. The stress was showing. Colleen had developed a nervous habit of checking her phone constantly, while Liam, according to Mara, had started working out obsessively and snapping at minor inconveniences. Friday evening, the night before the gala, I was in my workshop organizing tools when Sandy Rodriguez, my best employee and the closest thing I had to a brother, stopped by with a six-pack of beer. "You've been weird lately," he said without preamble, settling onto a crate and opening 2 bottles. "Want to talk about it?" Sandy had worked for me for 8 years. He'd been there through the good times and the lean months, and he had an uncanny ability to read people. If he'd noticed something was off, others probably had too. "Marriage stuff," I said finally. "Nothing I can't handle." "Bullshit." He took a long drink and studied my face. "I've seen you handle marriage stuff. This is different. This is you planning something." He wasn't wrong. "What would you do if you found out Maria was cheating on you?" His expression darkened. "I'd probably do something stupid and end up in jail." "Why? Is Colleen—" "Yeah." "Hell, I'm sorry, man. What are you going to do?" I told him everything. The photos, the lies, the alliance with Mara, the plan for tomorrow night. Sandy listened without interrupting, his face growing grimmer with each detail. "Jesus, Nathan, you're playing with fire here." They lit the match. I'm just controlling the burn. He was quiet for a long time, then nodded slowly. "What do you need from me?" "Nothing. This is my fight." "Bullshit. You've had my back for 8 years. Time to return the favor." He pulled out his phone. "Maria's been wanting to go to that gala anyway. We'll be there tomorrow night, just in case things get messy." Having backup hadn't been part of the plan, but I was grateful for it. Mara and I were walking into hostile territory, and it would be good to have friendly faces in the crowd. Saturday evening arrived with the kind of perfect spring weather that made everything seem possible. I picked up Mara at her house, and when she opened the door, I understood why Liam was such an idiot for cheating on her. She wore a simple black dress that somehow made every other woman's outfit look like they were trying too hard. Her hair was pulled back in an elegant updo, and her only jewelry was a pair of diamond earrings that caught the light when she moved. "You clean up nice," I said. "So do you. Ready to burn their world down?" "I've been ready for weeks." The country club was decorated with white lights and spring flowers, the kind of tasteful elegance that screamed expensive charity event. We found Colleen and Liam near the bar, both dressed to impress and looking like the perfect couple, if you didn't know they were both married to other people. Colleen's face when she saw us together was worth the price of admission. Her blue dress suddenly seemed overdone next to Mara's understated elegance, and the way Liam's eyes lingered on his wife made Colleen's jaw tighten visibly. "Don't you two look lovely?" Mara said with that razor-sharp smile. "Nathan, you didn't tell me Colleen's dress was so bold." The dress was cut low enough to be inappropriate for a charity function, but Colleen had always believed that more was more when it came to getting attention. "I like to make an impression," Colleen replied, her voice tight. "Oh, you certainly do that." We found our assigned table, the 4 of us plus 2 other couples I barely knew. The seating arrangement put me next to Mara and Colleen next to Liam, which was perfect for what we had planned. Dinner conversation was stilted, full of the kind of small talk that barely concealed the underlying tension. Colleen kept shooting glances at Mara and me, clearly trying to figure out the nature of our relationship. Liam seemed distracted, checking his phone repeatedly despite the dirty looks from his wife. "Everything okay, darling?" Mara asked sweetly. "You seem nervous." "Just work stuff," he mumbled. "On a Saturday night? How dedicated." She turned to me. "Nathan, you never bring work to social events. I appreciate a man who knows how to be present." I could see Colleen's face reddening. "Nathan works all the time," she said defensively. "His business is very demanding." "Success often is," Mara replied smoothly. "But the best business people know when to focus on what really matters." The conversation continued like that through 3 courses, each exchange more loaded than the last. By the time the auction began, both Colleen and Liam looked like they wanted to be anywhere else. That's when I decided it was time to make our move. "Excuse me," I said, standing and offering Mara my hand. "Would you like to dance?" The band was playing something slow and romantic, and several couples were already on the dance floor. Mara took my hand with a smile that could have powered the entire country club. We moved onto the floor, and I pulled her close, not inappropriately, but close enough that anyone watching would get the message. She was a good dancer, following my lead effortlessly as we moved to the music. "They're watching," she murmured against my ear. "Colleen looks like she wants to murder someone." "Good, let her stew." We danced through 2 songs, talking quietly and laughing at shared jokes. To anyone observing, we looked like a couple completely absorbed in each other, which I realized with some surprise wasn't entirely an act. When we returned to the table, the atmosphere had shifted dramatically. Colleen's face was flushed with anger, while Liam looked like he'd swallowed something unpleasant. "You 2 dance well together," Colleen said with fake brightness. "Very comfortable." "We've been practicing," I replied, not bothering to explain that this was our first time dancing together. "Practicing for what?" Mara and I exchanged a look. This was it, the moment we'd been building toward for weeks. "Well," Mara said slowly, "Nathan and I have been spending a lot of time together lately, getting to know each other, sharing experiences." The table went silent. Even the other couples stopped their conversations to listen. "What kind of experiences?" Liam asked, his voice dangerously quiet. I smiled and reached for Mara's hand. "The kind that happen when 2 people discover they have more in common than they thought, like having spouses who think they're smarter than everyone else." Colleen's wine glass hit the table hard enough to splash red wine onto the white tablecloth. "What is that supposed to mean?" "It means," Mara said calmly, "that we know about the cabin. We know about Romano's. We know about all of it." The color drained from both their faces. Around us, I could see other diners starting to pay attention to our table. "I don't know what you think you know," Liam started. "We know you've been sleeping with my wife in your wife's bed," I said, my voice carrying just enough to reach the nearby tables. "We know you've been using her money to pay for your romantic getaways. We know you're both lying, cheating pieces of shit who deserve each other." Colleen stood up so fast her chair toppled backward. "How dare you? How dare you embarrass me like this in front of everyone?" "Embarrass you?" I stood too, and suddenly the entire room was watching our table. "You embarrassed yourself the moment you decided to cheat on your husband with a man who already broke your heart once. At least he knows how to treat a woman," she screamed. "At least he makes me feel alive. And at least his wife knows how to be faithful," I replied calmly. "Which is why I chose her. You chose him. Congratulations, you can have each other." The room erupted in whispers and gasps. Colleen looked around at all the staring faces, her social standing crumbling in real time. "You bastard," she whispered. "You planned this." "No," Mara said, standing and taking my arm. We planned this, together, because unlike you two, we actually know how to work as a team. Colleen grabbed her purse and ran for the exit, tears streaming down her face. Liam followed, but not before shooting us both a look of pure hatred. Well, said the woman sitting next to me, that was better than dinner theater. The crowd began to disperse, returning to their conversations with the excited energy that comes from witnessing a spectacular public meltdown. Mara and I sat back down, ordered another bottle of wine, and enjoyed the rest of the evening. Think they'll ever forgive us? Mara asked as we waited for our car from the valet. I don't really care, I said honestly. My wife said her ex would always be around, and I should accept it. Well, I accepted it. I accepted that she chose him over me, so I chose his wife over her. Mara smiled and leaned against my shoulder. Best decision you ever made. As we drove away from the country club, leaving behind the wreckage of 2 marriages and 4 lives forever changed, I realized she was probably right.